Hello, and welcome back to another Chris McPherson Show Daily Dose. And as the summer of sport continues to heat up, it's time to talk some more tennis. When we're talking some tennis again, we welcome in Christian Monaghan from the First Serve to pick apart the Aussie Open men's and women's. Good to see you again, mate.
Good to see you, Chris. The draws just happened earlier today. So, yeah, keen to delve into both the men's and women's singles because there's a lot of interesting first round matchups that could go either way. So, who knows? Maybe a couple seeds might fall. Usually, you get that every Grand Slam, right? Some more than others. You saw Wimbledon, for example, last year. The seeds just kept tumbling after those early few rounds. Might not be the case this time around, but there still are some interesting matchups there which could cause some upsets.
You're almost guaranteed a couple will fall. But if you want to stay up to date with the Australian Open, between all of our insights, we'll be back most days, if not all days, covering off daily dose recaps and look aheads. So make sure to hit subscribe, hit like on the video, get involved in the comments. Let us know who you think could be a dark horse, who you think could maybe rattle a few cages, or seeds that you might think might fall in the first round even. But let's get into it. Let's start with the women's draw, Christian, and let's have a run through this and how it shapes up. As always, there's a lot of oohs and ahs. It was quite funny watching this today. You could actually hear Jelena Dokic during the draw when you're watching the telecast, whispering to Todd Woodbridge about different people when they're coming out and possible permutations. And that's always the fun bit, isn't it? Not just the first round. It's like, oh, look who could play in the third round. Look who could play in the fourth round. Obviously, the third and the fourth round is where we start to see seeds coming head-to-head if they make their way through. So let's look at the first quarter of the women's draw, and we'll run through the seeds in the order as they sit first of all, and then we might come back and talk about some of those other floaters that are dangerous in there. So, as always happens, the number one seed at the top of the draw, Arina Sabalenka in line one. We then go down to Emma Raducanu, who would be her potential third-round matchup. We've also got Victoria Mboko, who will play Aussie Emerson Jones in the first round, which is exciting. Clara Towson's in there, the 14th seed. Alexandrova, I was going to say the Russian, but we're not allowed to call them Russians, the non-country player, the 11th seed. Marta Kostyuk, the Ukrainian, in the 20th seed. Jovic, the young American, the 29th seed. And then Jasmine Paolini, the oft underrated Italian, and I know you love the Italians, Christian, the 7th seed. In terms of those guys, obviously a lot of expectation on Arina Sabalenka. A lot of people are already penciling her in for the final. Which of the other seeds in this section are you expecting big runs from, or are you tipping maybe to bow out early?
Interesting one. I think Marta Kostyuk could go far, given her run in Brisbane. She obviously made the final against Sabalenka, put up a decent fight, albeit Sabalenka winning that in straight sets, which was expected, right, given Sabalenka's form. She loves Brisbane. She loves Australia in general, right? She's won the Australian Open twice already, made the final last year. So she's obviously the red-hot favourite coming in as a top seed. But, yeah, I think Kostyuk could be one in that sort of bracket. A potential second-round match with Haddon Meyer or Putin-Seva, both, relatively experienced players, but I'm going to go sort of with my smoky early. You're probably going to jump to it later, but I need to mention it now because it's part of this bracket. I think Iva Jovic is one to really keep an eye out on. 29th seed. I think she's got a very, very favorable sort of part of her draw. She's got Katie Volinet's first round, winner of Priscilla Hon and Stakusic from Canada. Then you work your way down, potential third round Jasmine Paolini. Now, Paolini's 7th seed. I expect Paolini to drop off quite a bit this year. Not even just because of her United Cup campaign. I thought she was probably a bit on and off, hit or miss during that tournament. But I just think, yeah, she's hit her ceiling. I think she's going to fall off a bit in the rankings. So I think that could be a potential third round upset between Jovic and Paolini. And then from there, if you knock out the 7th seed, the draw opens up for you, right? You obviously face Sabalenka later on, which you expect Sabalenka to win that. But for Jovic, being such a young player from the United States, only 18 years of age, a lot has been talked about her, right? She's playing in Hobart at the moment. At the time of recording, she's in the quarterfinals, so she could even progress to the semi-finals, even make the final, even win the thing. She's that talented. She's that good of a ball striker. Just, watch out for her because in this section of the draw, I think very, very favourable with the players around her.
All right, we'll be watching out for Iva Jovic. A couple of the other names that I've spotted here, Arina Sabalenka's potential second-round matchup, and I think it was the first thing I texted you when I saw it during the draw. Former quarterfinals, I think maybe 4-time quarterfinalist, Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova. That could be a huge matchup in terms of a second-round matchup into maybe an Emma Raducanu in the third for Sabalenka. So probably not the draw she would have wanted. I mean, she'll be confident nonetheless, the world number one. She's the daylight number one here, right, in the world. But that's a little bit of a spanner in the works.
I don't have it in front of me, but I believe Pavlyuchenkova played Sabalenka either last year or the year before, and she put up a really good fight on Rod Laver Arena. I believe it was against Sabalenka. Sabalenka got through it, I believe, in 3 sets, but it was a very, very close affair. And Pavlyuchenkova, she's got all the experience in the world, right? She's what, maybe mid-30s in age. Like you touched on, made a few quarterfinal runs at Grand Slams. She knows what it takes to beat some of these top players. So for Sabalenka to see that on paper and a potential second round, that's not going to be easy at all. I'd actually see her more of a danger than Emma Raducanu, because you saw Raducanu actually lost earlier today to Taylor Preston, the Aussie, in straight sets down in Hobart. So I think Raducanu, her body just, it still isn't right. We know we have all those question marks around her body. Can she keep fit? Can she maintain consistency? Sorry. So yeah, I think Raducanu probably isn't in the right headspace to do that, to beat Sabalenka.
Yeah.
I think Pavlyuchenkova is going to be a really tough battle.
Yeah, you're right. Last year's quarterfinal, 6-2, 2-6, 6-3 to Sabalenka. So she certainly got the ability. So that will be one that certainly throws a little bit of a spanner in the works. If we scroll a little further down in this quarter, we talked about Marta Kostyuk before. Her potential second round opponent will be the winner of Yulia Putintseva and Beatrice Haddad-Maia, two players who have been seeded in recent years at a lot of slams. That's going to be a cracking first round matchup, first of all, but then the winner into Marta Kostyuk, and then possibly, again, on ranking, Alexander in the third round. That little segment's going to be, there should be some good matches in there.
Yeah, for sure. Hadamaya, Putintseva, both really hard hitters. Hadamaya's had her injury troubles over the past couple of seasons, so you hope that she gets back to her best or finds some sort of consistency, because when she's on, she can be close to a top 10 player. She's that talented, so that's going to be a really intriguing matchup. And then, yeah, right from the top, Alexandrova, 11th seed, you expect her to be able to work her way through to the third round, where, again, Marta Kostyuk, that's probably the projected third round clash, right? Most expected on paper, which would be a real classic given the styles, hard hitters in the baseline. Alexandrova, really underrated player, I think, on the WTA Tour. Not too many people really speak of her, but consistent wise, she's always beating the names that she should be beating. And, you come against Kostyuk, who is also sort of finding her way into the tour. When she burst into the scene, 16, 17 years of age, people said Kostyuk was going to be the next big thing. It didn't quite work out at the start. She needed a bit of time to adjust and settle into the tour. I think now, given, like I touched on before, she made that Brisbane final, she's starting to find a bit of confidence and form. She could be a danger. So I'm really expecting Alexandrova and Kostyuk, if they get to that stage, to be a really cracking third round clash.
Excellent. Well, let's move on to the second quarter. We're looking at the seeds here. Coco Gauff, who will come back to some of her potential opponents in a moment. Maketa Vondrousova is a name in there. Mukova's in there as well, the 19th seed. Navarro, the 15th seed, who slid down the ranks a little bit. Alina Svitolina, the 12th seed. Diana Schneider, the 23rd seed. Then we get down to Yastremska and Mira Andreeva. There's quite a few names in here that we'll fire through and talk about briefly, but this feels like there's an opportunity for any of these seeds. There's a few of them that have slid a couple of spots in the last 6 to 9 months that you go, okay, if they can get back to their ceiling, they could make a little bit of a run here. It feels a bit more in the balance for mine in terms of some of the minor seedings. Obviously, a lot of expectation on Coco Gauff, but we know she's not quite at her best at the moment. And similarly with Mira Andreeva.
You look at the top half, you see Coco Gauff there, and then Maketa Vondrousova just below potential third round. I think Coco exits early. I know it's controversial, but I think Vondrousova, she can hit Coco off the court. We know Coco with the Australian Open hasn't been her best slam. I think we've said that previously with, I believe, Wimbledon, where she's just really struggling in that slam as well. I think Australian Open, she has to prove herself a bit more, and you come up against a player of Vondrousova's quality, already a former Wimbledon champion, coming in as the 32nd seed. That is probably one of the worst seeds you want to face, and she's right up there at number 32. So if we get that third round matchup, just expect fireworks, expect an upset, because I think Vondrousova can get through to the fourth round and cause that upset. And then you look further down in this draw, Alex Ayala from the Philippines. She's been up and up in the rankings and her form. She played Kooyong, over the course of this week, over the past few days, playing Alicia Parks. Should get through that one. And then Karolina Mukova, we know, another really talented Czech, who's got that fair bit of experience at Grand Slam level
Czech
as well.
Players in this draw, isn't there?
Yeah.
Like, you have a look at some of these names and the power that they hit with, and and certainly in this segment, So looking forward to Iala and some of these as well. I guess the other one, speaking of Czechs, Diana Schneider has got Barbora Krejcikova, another unseeded player. Geez, you do all the hard work to get yourself seeded, and
Mm.
then you draw someone like that. I know she isn't absolutely at her best at the moment, but it's still just one of those people that's a bit of a spanner in the works.
Yeah, I believe Krejcikova had a bit of a knee issue down in Hobart where she just survived her first round clash, required the physio. She was crying on the bench, and then she somehow got through the tiebreak and managed to get herself through. But again, her body just isn't in the best shape. You just wonder, is she able to back it up? Every second day, can she do that? I just don't think so. Diana Schneider, if you haven't watched her play, watch her play because her power, her just raw athleticism, the way she can just bully opponents from the baseline, not really comfortable coming into the net, but Schneider, another talented player there, 23rd seed, but you're right, to come up against a player of Krejcikova's quality, it doesn't matter what kind of form they're in, because if they click into gear, then that's it. You've got a tussle on your hands. So for Schneider, should be looking at thinking, yep, this is a tough one. Then you got Elena Svitolina, potential third round, if you do get through that. Not easy at all.
Certainly not. Speaking of not easy, I talked about it before. Mira Andreeva, obviously a young, shining light over recent years. She's got her way into the top 10. A little bit of a bumpy finish to 2025, I think it's fair to say. She would have been sitting there going, okay, I'm a top 8 seed. I've managed to hang on to that. That gives me a little bit of protection. And then she draws one of probably the more dangerous players who's not seeded in Donna Vekic in the first round, and then possibly Maria Sakkari, who we saw some good tennis from at the United Cup in the second round. This is not ideal for Mira Andreeva.
No, it is not. You look at Andreeva, and again, there's a lot of talk around her being the potential next Grand Slam champion. Again, at such a young age, she's just broken through so young. I believe it was the Australian Open a couple of years ago where she burst into the scene, right? Where she's 15, 16 years old, and everyone thought, yeah, this is going to be the next big thing. And she, to be fair, she has proven to have that upside, right? She's been to the top five. Before she's made, Grand Slam quarters and semis, and she's really tried to knock down the door of these players like Sabalenka, Coco, and Iga. Just hasn't been quite there yet, but her time will come. And, you look at this draw now, I think she's good enough to go deep again. But whether she does or not, who knows? Because I think she's still one of those players who mentally can have those one or two lapses in concentration, right? And when things don't go her way, there might be an upset on the card. So I don't know if you're seeing an upset there with Andreeva's sort of little section there, Chris, but she should have the quality, albeit Donna Vekic first round. It's not going to be easy.
Yeah, it's definitely not going to be easy. But I guess she's playing some okay form at the moment down in, I think she's in Adelaide and through to the semis there, if I'm not mistaken, having beaten Buzkova. And then she did a job on Maya Joint today, two and love. So maybe she's just playing in. She seems to like the Australian conditions. I mean, historically, a lot of the Russians have. So, it'll be interesting to see. We'll move on to the third quarter just in the interest of keeping on punching through. And let's go through the seeds again here. And there's some interesting spots. Jessica Pegula, the 6th seed. Paula Badosa, I should say. The Spaniard, the 25th seed. Leylah Fernandez, the 22nd seed. We then have Madison Keys in here, the defending champion, the 9th seed. Linda Noskova, the 13th seed. Yelena Ostapenko, the 24th seed. Sophia Kenin, who is the 27th seed. And then Amanda Anisimova, the 4th seed. You talk about people who are the Grand Slam champion, apparent. Amanda Anisimova is probably the other one alongside Mira Andreeva that's, in that conversation really in terms of ones that people are not saying is a chance, but are going when. It's not if, it's when that they'll win one.
I'm expecting it to be pretty soon this year, if not next year. People have said that she was done and dusted after that Wimbledon final. Again, that double bagel to Iga. Mentally, how do you come back from that? But she's proven the doubters wrong, right? She actually beat Iga after at the US Open, which shows her mental fortitude. And she just swept that aside and said, okay, I'm going again. I know my talent. I know my worth. And she's a very, very dangerous player in this draw. Nobody, including Sabalenka, wants to face her because she can beat anyone on any given day. With her talent and her sort of variety in shot making, got that IQ behind her as well, which can really cause a lot of trouble. So, yeah, expecting her to make a deep run there. Are you as well, Chris? Is she maybe one of the favourites for you?
Yeah, look, we'll get to where our predictions are, but I've certainly got her having a crack here. I think the draw shaped quite well for her. Like, she's got not what I'd call overly difficult matches, and now that I say that, she'll probably stumble at one of these, but a Siniakova in the second round. I feel like sometimes you see these draws, and in the first couple of rounds, if you get some players where it's not overly challenging, but they test you a little bit. Sort of, you're not just getting love and ones. It can be quite good, especially for some of the less experienced players. Obviously, the Eagers Fiontex of the world love the double bagels, those sorts of things, just getting things done. But I think just a bit of resilience without having to go deep into, 3-set tie breaks and all this sort of stuff all the way through, and you're fatigued by the end of it, which is my worry for a couple of the other young players that I look at there. I think that shapes well. I mean, maybe a Kennan or a Maria in the third round. It looks okay from that point of view, but there are some other dangerous players. She gets to the fourth round and it could be a Noskova or a Yelena Ostapenko, who it's both, two big hitters. Not that that's ever been really a problem for Anisimova in terms of coming up against other big hitters.
Yep. Yep, for sure. I don't think that'll pose too much of a problem for her. But I mean, looking through Siniakova, potential second round, she's more of a double specialist now on the tour. And then you look down as well, Sophia Kennan, former champion, could be a potential third round, but Kennan isn't the same player as we've seen in previous years. She's dropped off quite a lot. It's just been quite a massive decline, to be honest. So, don't expect too many upsets in those early rounds, Hannah Samova, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I think I would have to sort of align with your thoughts on that. It's interesting to have a look at some of the other matches, though, in this segment when we start talking about it and going a little bit higher. Obviously, Madison Keys, the defending champion, is there. But the one that's got me is sitting in between Madison Keys and Leylah Fernandez. And no disrespect to Leylah, but I don't think she's got Madison Keys looking nervously over her shoulder for her in the third round. But we've got Pliskova against Sloane Stephens, which is just a quirky little first-round matchup for mine in here. Again, two players that probably aren't quite at their best at the moment. But that becomes an interesting segment. But again, the defending champion, she's got to be looking and going, look, I'm backing myself to get to, a fourth round at least up against a Paula Badosa, a Jessica Pegula, someone like that.
Yeah, for sure. Albeit Keys hasn't really hit her straps yet in 2026. She's taken a bit of time. She lost to Mboko actually in the Adelaide quarterfinals just previously today. So I don't know. I've watched a couple of her games this year, and Keys just taking a bit of time to adjust. Once again, I'm sure when she hits back into the swing of things, especially Grand Slam level, she's a completely different player. We've seen that in years past where she might be, dipping a bit of in form, and then once those Grand Slams arrive, she's just a completely different player, and she can just breeze to the draw. Quick serves, just winning 3 points. And she's one of those dangerous. And it's the reason why she was able to beat Sabalenka to the Australian Open title last year, and well deserved. So whether she can back that up, because she's now the hunted now, right? She's no longer hunting in terms of the Australian Open, because she's obviously the reigning champion. So we'll wait and see. But in terms of this draw in the early rounds, Leylah Fernandez, I tend to agree with you. Yes, former US Open finalist, but again, just not quite the same player as she once was, despite being young, and she's got that time to grow and get back to that stage. I just don't see it. So, expecting at least the fourth round for Keys here.
Well, let's move on to the fourth and final quarter of the women's, and let's talk through the seeds here. And this one for mine, when I look at it at the surface level, this was the quarter that I kind of went, once you look at some of the floaters and the seeds that are here, this is a very hotly contested quarter. So you got Elena Rybakina, the fifth seed. You've got Maya Joint, the Aussie, the 30th seed, who's probably a little out of touch and a little out of form on some results we've seen lately. Elisa Mertens, the 21st seed. Belinda Bencic, the 10th seed. Naomi Osaka, the 16th seed. Ludmila Samsonova, the 18th seed. Kalinskaya, the 31st seed. And Iga Swiatek, the 2nd seed. We've also got a couple of Aussies floating in here. We've got Inglis versus Birrell in the first round. But I want to talk about two of the players that I see that are probably mature players, but on the improve at the moment in terms of their tennis, that I just think make this so dangerous, alongside obviously Rybakina and Swiatek. And that's Belinda Bencic and Naomi Osaka, both playing some really good tennis at the moment. We saw Bencic at the ATP Cup, the United Cup. It hasn't been the ATP Cup for a while. The United Cup, and obviously we saw what Naomi Osaka did at the back end of last year. This is a little bit spicy in here.
I think Bencic breezes through the fourth round. If I'm being honest, I'm seeing Bencic versus Rybakina, I believe it will be, in the round of 16, because Bencic, ever since she's come back from maternity leave, she has proven the doubters wrong. She's been near flawless. Her rise has been sensational already. To be up to 10th seed at a Grand Slam, given her journey and having a baby, and then having to get back onto the tour and perform at this high standard, it's just been hats off to her. She's been incredible. So Katie Bolter, yes, not the easiest first round opponent, but I just can't look past her. I think she's just been super impressive. United Cup, she won that MVP award where she was absolutely superb, both in the singles and the doubles. So she's coming into this with a lot of confidence. And again, potential Daria Kazatkina, second round. She's been nowhere near her same self. Kazatkina, has she? So I'm a bit worried for her if that's actually the potential second round matchup, because it could be a bit of a one-sided, lopsided matchup. So yeah, benches Rybakina fourth round for me, and then you look down with you as well. Naomi Osaka is going to be a dangerous opponent. Down there, you got Samsonova there as well, 18th seed, Kalinskaya. Those are obviously tricky names, but nothing Osaka can't handle, right? I think Osaka is one of those players who just needs that bit of a run. We know that she's got that, the experience, obviously two-time champion at the Oz Open, but there's just something not right clicking in the mind where it just lets her back a bit. And if she can find that mentally, that peace of mind to just go through the draw without any pressure and just play her best tennis, she can beat anyone on any given day. And I truly believe that.
Yeah, I agree. I think the one that not concerns me, but I'm like, if Naomi Osaka isn't into her rhythm in the second round and she comes up against Eva Lease, we saw what Eva Lease did last year, the fourth round here, that could be a bump. But if she can build into it, get past those two, as you said, a Samsonova's got Laura Siegman, so who knows what happens with Laura Siegman in the first round of any Grand Slam. She's always one of those names you kind of look and go, she's always an interesting one to see where she falls. So, yeah, I think for mine, Osaka should be looking at this and just going, right, how do I get to Iga Swiatek, or what should be an Iga Swiatek matchup in the fourth round? But, again, for Swiatek, she'll be looking and eyeing off, maybe Buzkova in the second round. And then Kalinskaya, Sunny Catel's put some decent form in here at Wimbledon last year. So there's some players here that I don't think they're going to cause big trouble. There's enough of a mix, but those big four-seeded names that we talked about, if we get those guys coming through to the fourth round, that is mouth-watering matchups for mine. As you said, I'm really looking forward to like Bencic versus Rybakina and Osaka versus Swiatek. There's enough contrast of styles, and it's probably the one quarter where I go, I'm probably the most confident, despite some of the other names there, but those four seeds getting through to that fourth round is really exciting stuff.
Yeah, there'll be a couple of flashbacks for Osaka a couple of years ago where Osaka played Iga at the French Open. She had those couple of match points, couldn't put them away, could have knocked out Iga early. Then Iga obviously went on to win the tournament. If we get a rematch of that on hard court, watch out, because if Osaka can perform like that on the clay, you can only imagine what she's capable of on her favorite surface. And we know Iga as well, Australian Open, her best result was the semis. She's made it a couple of times, never made the final. So if we talk about pressure, she's also got that weight of expectation on her shoulders where a lot of people are expecting her to, overcome that next hump and reach the final and go one better even and actually win the whole thing. So yeah, if that's a fourth round matchup, that's going to be really enticing.
It certainly is going to be enticing, and I've been loving the amount of detail we're going into here. So what we're going to do, Christian, we're going to take a little bit of a break. Everyone should hit like, hit subscribe, and we're going to release part 2 after this, which will be our men's draw. We're going to drop these as 2 separate videos so that we hit some good timelines. But, mate, I'm looking forward to that. Let's do our predictions now. I was going to save them till the end, but let's get there. So your dark horse and your finalists and your winner, my friend.
My dark horse, I just touched on it before, Iva Jovic from the USA. I think potential fourth round quarters, she can make a really deep run being a teenager. She's one of those teens who can really, again, one of those tournaments, she can burst onto the scene and people are going to sit up and recognize her. I think she's got that much talent from what I've seen from her so far. So watch out for that name. And in terms of favorites and who will win it, it's tough. I'm going to go for Elena Rybakina. I'm going to go for... It's not a smoky because she's up there as one of the favorites.
Who does she beat in the final?
Who does she beat in the final?
So she's obviously coming out of the bottom half.
Yeah, it would have to be a Rybakina and Sabalenka final, and Rybakina takes it. Just given Rybakina's form, she was nearly on a 16-match winning streak if she won Brisbane. Coming off, she won the WTA finals end of last year. I think she's hit some really, really good form. I think actually that loss in Brisbane has done her some good. Just go back, recharge the batteries, reset. Doesn't have too big of a head to think, okay, I'm going to go ahead and win this thing. Just to keep her composed, stay calm, and I think she'll be a real threat on these fast courts of the Australian Open. So, yeah, I think Rybakina, just a bit different. I don't want to go for Sabalenka. I'll make her get to the final, but nothing more. Let's go Rybakina to beat Sabalenka.
I've got 2 dark horses that float in those seeds as well, and they're both in the top half of the draw. I did like Jovic, but I'm going to go, and again, not that imaginative because she's another one of the young stars on the right, but Victoria Mboko, she comes up against our Emerson Jones in the first round. I can see her going. She's got Clara Towson to get past in the third potentially. I can see her going to the fourth round and, maybe just maybe working her match up through and, continuing on, from a fourth round where she might get a Jasmine Paolini. So she could open up into, a quarterfinal and maybe even a semi-final from there. So she's one of them. The other one was, we talked about her before, is I'm having a mental blank now and trying to find her again. As I scroll through my draw, I had my notes here. Diana Schneider. Sorry, we talked about the power of Diana Schneider before, 23rd seed. I think she can make a little bit of a run. I don't know that she'll be a semi-final where I wouldn't be outrageously surprised if Mboko made a semi. Schneider, I think, is just a little bit harder. I can see her getting past maybe a Svitolina and maybe even an Andreeva to get to a quarterfinal, but I think that might be the end of it. So that could be an interesting one to watch for me. My final, though, I've got Amanda Anisimova getting through. So from my maths, that will be from the top half, and I've got her playing Elena Rybakina in the final, and I've got Amanda Anisimova winning her first Grand Slam. So we probably just put the death knell on Elena Rybakina because we both got to get into a final.
She'll be knocked down the second round, no doubt, because we just predicted her.
Yeah, I wanted to find a narrative to get Naomi Osaka there, but I just don't quite see it. That'd be something, wouldn't it? Amanda Anisimova versus Naomi Osaka. That could be quite cool. But that's our women's draw breakdown. We'll be back with another episode in a few hours now, it will be, with our men's draw. But as always, Christian, good to talk to you. If people want to find all of their Australian Open content, we're going to scratch the surface here. But the First Serve's the place to find it on the website or social media.
That's it, mate. Appreciate being on and definitely talk some more. And obviously look forward to the men's draw as well.
Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you've enjoyed this. You'll get notifications that way about all of our upcoming content on the Chris McPherson Show. But thank you, as always, for tuning into your home of the black and white of sport. No grey opinions here.